The media is lying about the Elon Musk Twitter buy. Or maybe they just suck at their jobs and some 24-year-old trying to make a name for himself can fact check a story better than their multi-billion-dollar companies. And they've glommed onto this weird talking point that I guess one person said and they all kind of repeated, which was that Elon purchased 9.2% stake in Twitter on March 14th. There's an article in the Washington Post that says, Elon Musk just bought a $3 billion stake in Twitter because when you're the world's richest human, you could toss billions around like poker chips, which is not actually what he's doing. This is a very calculated move. It did not happen on just one day. He actually started buying Twitter stock up on January 31st and bought stock every trading day through April 1st. Just by a quick Google search, if you just search 9.2% March 14th, there's just article after article are incorrect. Some news organizations have started to correct themselves, but if you go to CNET, you'll see the Tesla chief took a 9.2% stake in the social media site on March 14th, according to Security Exchange Commission filing, which is not what the filing says, but we will get to the filing. If we go to the Daily Mail, we will also see Musk disclosed Monday that he had purchased a 9.2% stake in the social media giant on March 14th. Did not happen. Investopedia says, according to a 13G filing on March 14th, the filing was not done on March 14th. What actually happened was that Elon passed the threshold of owning 5% of Twitter. Anytime an investor buys 5% or more of a company's shares, they must disclose the purchase in filings with the Security Exchange Commission. Now, let's just think about this for a second before we get to the SEC filing, which we will get to. If Elon had taken about $3 billion and sunk it all into Twitter on one day, the stock would have skyrocketed. So let's take a look at what actually happened. Right here, March 14th, we're looking at the chart on Yahoo Finance. So it went up 94 cents. That's not enough to account for a $3 billion investment, moving 9.2% of the company in one day. It's ridiculous. I don't understand how anyone could have ran with this if you took 2 seconds to look at the numbers. But let's just look at one other thing. In the top left-hand corner, you'll see the word volume. Volume is 17.55 million shares were bought and sold on the stock exchange. If we look at the SEC filing, he owns 73.5 million shares. But what you look at is, this is just a form that he's filling out. Section that says date of event, which requires filing of this statement. What happened on March 14th was he owned more than 5% of the company, which is why he had to file this. Now, he actually didn't file this on time. He didn't file it until April 4th. So it was filed late, but it was filed on April 4th. It was not filed on March 14th. As Investopedia says. Let's go to the next filing. So this is a newer filing. So if we look at this filing, this is dated April 5th, right? So this is interesting because it clears up that he did not buy all those shares on one day, as anyone with half a brain would have noticed, but it lists that every day from January 31st through April 1st, he has been buying up shares of Twitter. Consistently, this was a thought out, methodical investment in Twitter. This is not, as this Washington Post article states, a billionaire just throwing poker chips around. This wasn't a one-day whim. Now, why is Elon making this move for Twitter? Is it activist investing? So there are two main types of activist investing. One type is where you are buying into a company so that you can get on their board and you can enact change, fits your political or personal persuasion. Maybe it's morally like to see a company move in a certain direction. There's another form that meant to monetarily help you. You're activist investing because you think maybe the company is not performing well or it's undervalued. So if you get in there and you steer it in the right direction, you can use it to make money. So is he doing it for political purposes or is he doing it to make money? Now, if we look at Elon Musk's tweets, these are very interesting because he already owned much stake in the company by the time he was making these tweets. He calls himself a free speech absolutist. If we look at March 25th, he posted, "Free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle?" With over 2 million votes, 70.4% said no. And he goes on to say, "The consequences of this poll will be important. Please vote carefully." But he had already made his move. He's already been buying Twitter at this point. He also says, "Given that Twitter serves as the de facto public town square, failing to adhere to free speech principles fundamentally undermines democracy. What should be done?" And then he says, "Is a new platform needed?" Now this is very interesting because he already owns a large portion of the platform that he's sending that tweet on. So is that just eyewash? I think probably so. But what direction do you see Elon taking with Twitter? Back in December, I made this video outlining how Twitter's new CEO, Parag Agrawal, did not value free speech and how that represented a threat to Twitter and public discourse more broadly. Elon must have seen that video, and so should you.